Hello, everybody. I'm making a kind of tutorial video on how to fill out the bid spreadsheets for you all. So hopefully there's no confusion or complications with them. Back at Regional Leadership Conference, I did a video similar to this, and there was still some confusion on what you had to do to fill out the spreadsheets. So hopefully I've kind of rethought my approach to it, and I'm going to walk through every single step on what I expect the spreadsheets to look like. And so I'm going to walk y'all through that now. So I'll go ahead and share my screen so that y'all can see what you have to do. So open up your internet, and you're going to want to go to the Boardroom website. I have it as a bookmark on my page because you're going to be using this site a lot. So it would be a good idea to bookmark it if you haven't. If you haven't bookmarked it, though, you can go to the regional websites, recur.necur.org, and then go to here on the homepage, Boardroom website, takes you to the same place. Okay? And again, if you haven't bookmarked it, you might want to go ahead and bookmark the Boardroom website page because it's going to be very important throughout the conference. So to get to the bids and to our spreadsheet, what you're going to do is go to President's Boardroom, click on the Boardroom page, not the drop-down menu. From the home page of President's Boardroom, we have the bid spreadsheet here, but then also our Boardroom schedule, so you can see all the bids that we're going to be going over. Click on the President's bid spreadsheet, it opens it up, and you're going to want to click Open. So not do anything to the preview of it, but actually open it up so that you can see the full sheet. So it opens it up as a Google document. If you're using Gmail and you want to keep it as a Google document and save it to your Google Drive, that is perfectly okay. If you're not using Gmail or you don't want to keep it as a Google Drive, you're going to want to save these somehow. So if you're not using Google Drive, what you can do is go to File, down to Download As, and then download it as a Microsoft Excel document to your desktop. That works just as fine. You just want to make sure that you have access to this while we're voting so that, because that's basically what the spreadsheets are for. They're to help you so that you don't have to pull back up all the bids and kind of refresh your memory on what pros, cons, and discussion points you want to say, but you have it all here in the bid spreadsheet for you. So down at the bottom, this one document has all of our tabs for all the different bids that we're going to be doing. So you can see we're doing a lot of bids this conference. They're all at the bottom. And they all have the schools and the bids that we're going to be voting on. With the spreadsheet, kind of just to walk over what it looks like and all the different parts of it. So you have the different bids that are going to be here, and you're going to have to do an evaluation on each of these bids. So for instance, under Student of the Year, you have Oklahoma State's bid, Texas Tech's bid, University of Houston, University of Oklahoma bids. So you're going to be going over 4 bids in this category. And what you're going to do is you look over up at the top, there's the criteria. So all the criteria for the bid, this is what's listed in policy that the bid needs to have. And you just go through and you mark Y or N on all of these. So you go across, and this should be the first thing that you do. Whenever you open up a bid and you're looking at it, count the number of pages. And remember, the title page of the bid and the citations page do not count towards the page numbers. But table of contents, all of the content pages, and all of the letters of recommendation pages, those are what count towards page numbers. So make sure that it doesn't exceed the maximum page number. Do they have page numbers on the bid? Do they have a table of contents? Do they have a citations page? Minimum 10-point font, there's really no way to tell if it's 10-point or not. But basically, is the font size readable, or is it so small that you really can't read it at all? Then you go through, and then it has certain criteria for the bid. You'll go through and you'll put yes or no, does it meet this criteria? Ideally, every single bid will meet every piece of criteria. If it does not meet a piece of criteria, then we kind of have some problems with the bid that you can bring up during pro-con and during discussion. So you'll go through and you'll fill out yes or no for each of these. And as you're going through and you're filling it out, you're going to want to be able to write some pros and some cons, as well as some discussion points. What I need from you is at least one pro, one con, and one discussion point for each bid in the category. So at the very least, this is what your bid spreadsheet should look like with, again, yeses and nos for each of these bids. That is what your spreadsheet should look like at the very least. Now, filling out the pro, con, and discussion point sections, if you want to do it where, you know, this, if you have a pro for term of the award shall be occur 2016 to 2017, maybe they mention something outside of that timeline, like before occur 2016, and you want to write a con about that specific thing or a discussion point about that specific thing. You can use these columns to help organize yourself that way. But you may also have a pro, a con, or a discussion point that doesn't really have to do with any particular piece of criteria. It's just about the bid as a whole. You can also kind of put these, don't feel like you can't put something about the bid as a whole on a particular column because it doesn't have to do with that piece of criteria. What these are just one box per pro, one box per con, one box per discussion point, not necessarily having to do with the column of the criteria that they're in. I hope that that makes sense. So for instance, this says academic success, achievements, and honors. But let's say you feel that the bid, there are very little grammatical mistakes in the bid, and you want to use that as a pro. You can list that here, few grammar mistakes. It doesn't have anything to do with academic success, achievements, or honors, but you're just listing it as a pro for the bid. That's totally fine. However you want to organize it is okay. I'm just looking for one pro, one con, and one discussion point for each school, for each bid that gets submitted. That's all I really care about. You do not need one for each individual column. That is not the case. You just need at least one per row, okay? If you have questions about that you still need clarification for, please let me know. So where do you go to find the bids in order to fill out the spreadsheets, right? If you go to President's Boardroom, under Elections, that's where the COPR bid is. The bid is right here. If you go to each individual bid category, for instance, commitment to sustainability, the two bids for that category are right here. And whenever we vote on those in Boardroom, here's where you would vote. Whenever you open it, it opens up the PDF of the bid so that you can go through and read it and fill out the spreadsheet too. So I'm gonna do kind of a mock bid spreadsheet for y'all so that y'all can see exactly what I'm looking for. So I'm gonna do commitment to advocacy because it just has one bid in the category. And what I like to do is kind of use both halves of the screen. So I'll go to President's Boardroom, look up commitment to advocacy. Here's the bid, I'm gonna open it. And I'm actually going to put half the bid, half the screen here for the bid. And then the other half of the screen I'm gonna use for the spreadsheet. So that way I can kind of look back and forth between them. So I'm gonna go through, no more than 16 pages. Again, this title page does not count as a page. So this is where you start counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, because letters of rec still count as a page, 14, citations page does not. So this bid is 14 pages total, which definitely meets that criteria. So I put a yes. Page numbers, yes, they list the page numbers at the top of each page. So that gets a yes. Table of contents, there's a table of contents, yes. There was a citations page, yes. Minimum 10-point font, again, does the font really look readable? Whenever I go through, it's definitely readable. So that's a yes. Term for NCUR purposes. So this is where you're going to go through and you're reading the bid and you kind of scan through looking at dates. And you just want to make sure that there's no date that falls before NCUR 2016, which was basically the last week of June. That's when the NCUR conference was. Nothing before the last week of June counts. So you're going to want to go through and see that. And if it follows the criteria, you put a yes. If you find a date before that timeline, put a no. Addresses campus and organization needs relevant to the area of advocacy, the origin of the initiative, the method of identifying the area, so on and so forth. So you go through and you look at each piece of criteria and you're asking yourself, does this bid answer this or not? And sometimes it can answer the piece of criteria, but not very clearly, or you feel like they could have elaborated a little more on that piece. Put that as a discussion point. Say the bid does not really say very clearly how, for instance, discusses student involvement and participation in the advocacy initiative. Maybe the bid doesn't really discuss student involvement with the advocacy initiative. So it mentions it, so you put a yes, but it doesn't really go into detail about how students were involved in the different ways that they participated with the initiative. So you feel like they could have done a little more with that, say that in the discussion section. So a pro, you could say, I'll just make up a pro real quick, meets all criteria. Con could be vague letter of recommendation. And your discussion point could say, needs more detail when talking about student involvement. And this would satisfy the criteria that I'm looking for in the spreadsheet. Obviously, you can put more pros, more cons, and more discussion points, but the least bit that I'm looking for is yeses or nos across the top, and then at least one pro, one con, and one discussion point in the whole spreadsheet, okay? And again, for the categories that have more than one bid, I'm looking for yeses and nos across each bid top. And then I'm looking for at least one pro-con discussion point per bid, okay? If you ever have any questions about what you need to do, if your spreadsheet is meeting the criteria or not, please don't hesitate to reach out to me and ask. I'm more than happy to help. Also, if you finish all of the spreadsheets in this document, you can email it to me, so that way I'll have you marked as completed and you don't need to worry about showing it to me at check-in. If you don't complete all pages of the bid spreadsheet by before the conference, just show it to me at check-in. If you don't have everything you need at check-in, I cannot give you voting rights at the conference. So please make sure that you finish all pages of the spreadsheet before the conference so that I can give you your voting rights, okay? As always, reach out if you have questions, and good luck reading all of your bids.